Ladies and gentlemen, are you feeling lost? Worn out, like you're running in circles and nothing is changing? Are the voices of distraction louder than your direction? Then this message is for you. You don't need another motivation video. You need to reset your mind, restart your spirit, and refocus your life before the burnout becomes permanent. There are moments in life when the world grows quiet not on the outside, but within. Moments when your soul whispers, something is wrong, you've drifted far from where you began. And in those moments, when everything you've chased fails to bring peace, you must make a choice. Will you continue as you are? Or will you reset, restart, and refocus? Asterisk, there is a silent crisis that creeps into the hearts of many. It does not arrive like a storm with noise and fury, it slips in quietly, like a fog over the sea, dulling your vision and numbing your senses. It's called drifting. It's what happens when we stop paying attention. It's what happens when we move through our days on autopilot, working, scrolling, eating, sleeping, but never really living. You see, a man doesn't lose his purpose in one grand moment of failure. He loses it in the slow, subtle fade. A little compromise here, a little distraction there, a small delay in prayer, a skipped moment of silence. Before long, the direction is gone and the soul is adrift. You may be breathing, but you're not alive. You may be moving, but you're not progressing. And it's not because you lack ability or opportunity, it's because you've lost sight of the why behind your what. You've lost sight of your compass, your inner north. The very voice that used to burn inside of you like a fire has now become a faint whisper beneath the noise of life. You wake up tired, even after rest. You try to fill the emptiness with pleasure, performance, and possessions, but it doesn't work. Why? Because you are a vessel built not just to float, but to sail with purpose. And drifting is the opposite of direction. There's something dangerous about drifting. It feels deceptively comfortable. There's no effort required, no resistance, no immediate crisis. It lulls you into thinking you're safe when in truth, you're slowly losing touch with your God-given identity. And isn't that the strategy? To keep you so busy that you never stop to ask, where am I going? Why am I doing this? What's the end of this road? So many people are sprinting down a path they never questioned, toward applause, wealth, fame, security, only to realize too late that the road leads to nowhere. You were created for more than motion. You were created for meaning. You were not placed on this earth to exist aimlessly. You were made to walk in truth, to know the voice of your Creator, to move in step with purpose, to impact others, and to be a light in a dark world. But the world has a way of distracting us from that. Distraction is one of the enemy's most effective weapons. If he can't destroy you, he'll just keep you busy with lesser things. He'll let you chase temporary victories while your soul quietly starves. He'll let you win at the wrong game and only show you the truth when the clock runs out. And that's where many find themselves today. Not in a moral collapse, not in scandal, but in spiritual fatigue. Not in rebellion, but in apathy. You've gone too long without a pause. You've gone too far without a map. Your days feel heavy, your heart feels cloudy, and the light you once carried now feels dim. That is the danger of drifting without direction. It sneaks in, and if you don't wake up, it steals years of your life. But let me ask you, what are you anchored to? Because if you're not anchored to something greater than yourself, you will drift. If your values change based on trends, if your beliefs shift based on popular opinion, if your peace is tied to performance, you're already drifting. The winds of life are strong, the currents are fast. The storms will come, and if you are not grounded, you will be taken wherever they carry you. This world does not offer anchors. It offers illusions of safety, careers, likes, status, money, but they don't hold when the waves come. And they will come. Have you ever watched a boat that wasn't anchored? Slowly, quietly, it moves farther and farther away from shore. Not because it chose to, not because it's weak, but because it's not secured. That's what happens to the human soul without purpose, without discipline, without God. It begins to drift away from the truth, from conviction, from clarity. You begin to settle for less, not because you want less, but because you're too exhausted to reach for more. You stop dreaming. You stop fighting. You stop listening. You see, drifting doesn't always look like failure. It can look like success, influence, power, even ministry. But if it's disconnected from direction, it's still empty. There's a reason your heart feels heavy even when everything looks fine from the outside. You weren't made to float. You were made to follow a path. And that path is narrow. It requires intention. It requires awareness. It requires vision. This is why the stillness of the soul matters. This is why we must reset. Because you can't correct your course if you don't acknowledge you've gone off track. And no one gets a clear vision while rushing. You must be still. You must be honest. You must look at your life not just as it appears, but as it truly is. Are you living on purpose, or are you just surviving each day? Are you building your life on solid ground, or on sand that shifts with every wave? The truth is, every one of us is prone to drift. No one is immune. The question isn't if you've drifted, it's how far you've gone without realizing it. And if you're reading this now, maybe that's your wake-up call. Maybe the reason you feel this internal tension is because something inside of you knows, this is not the life I was meant to live. This is not the story I want to end with. Let that discomfort speak. Let that voice grow louder. Let it draw you back to the one who gives direction. Because drifting doesn't end with noise. It ends with silence. The kind of silence where you don't even recognize yourself anymore. The kind of silence where passion turns to routine, where love turns to duty, where calling turns to coping. And you were never meant to live that way. Asterisk, there comes a moment in every life when the weight of the past becomes too heavy to carry forward. You try to move ahead, but the chains of regret, shame, disappointment, and failure pull you back. You try to smile, but something behind your eyes reveals the story isn't over. You show the world your best, but in the quiet of your heart, you're still haunted by what you've been through, what you've done, and what was done to you. And that's where the need to reset begins, not with changing the world around you, but by confronting the burdens you've buried deep within. The world teaches you to keep going, to stay busy, to distract yourself with the next task, the next opportunity, the next relationship. But ignoring a wound doesn't heal it. Burying pain doesn't erase it. Eventually, your soul will grow tired of running from what it hasn't faced. Eventually, the noise won't be loud enough to drown out the voice that says, you need to let this go. Resetting doesn't mean pretending like nothing happened. It means acknowledging what happened, but choosing not to let it define you any longer. There is a difference between remembering and reliving. Too many people are trying to step into their future while still reliving the past. And the past has a strange way of rewriting your identity if you let it. One failure, one mistake, one season of darkness, and suddenly you stop seeing yourself as redeemed and start seeing yourself as ruined. But you must understand, your past is a chapter, not your entire book. Your failure is not your future. Your wound is not your worth. The reset begins when you stop asking, why did this happen to me? And begin asking, what must I lay down to move forward? Some of you are carrying wounds from years ago, words spoken over you, opportunities lost, people who walked away. And you've internalized it as truth. You've built walls, not realizing that those walls are now your prison. You think you're protecting yourself, but in truth, you've just stopped growing. You're afraid to try again, to love again, to believe again, because the past still has a grip on your heart. But the reset requires courage. Not the kind of courage that fights others, but the courage to face yourself. The courage to confront your reflection and say, I'm tired of carrying what was never meant to come with me. You see, God is not intimidated by your past. He's not shocked by your mistakes. He's not sitting in heaven replaying your failures like a judge behind a bench. He sees your whole story, every broken part, and still calls you worthy of grace. But grace can only enter where pride exits. Resetting is an act of surrender. It's choosing to loosen your grip on what you thought your life was supposed to look like and trusting that the author still knows how to finish the story. And that's hard, because we want control, we want understanding, we want closure. But sometimes the closure you need doesn't come from an explanation, it comes from a decision. The decision to let go and trust again. Letting go is not forgetting, it's freeing. It's saying, I refuse to be defined by the worst moments of my life. I refuse to keep rehearsing what I can no longer change. I refuse to believe that the rest of my life has to be shaped by one chapter. And that's not weakness, that's strength. It's spiritual maturity to say, I will no longer let bitterness grow in my heart. I will no longer entertain thoughts that pull me away from peace. I will no longer wear labels that were never mine to carry. Some of you have been loyal to your pain. You've been faithful to your dysfunction. You've worn your trauma like a badge because it's the only identity you've known for so long. But there's more for you. You don't have to live like this. There is a reset waiting for you, but you must be willing to release. Release the guilt. Release the self-hate. Release the lie that says you're too broken to be used. Your destiny is not delayed by your damage. The only thing keeping you stuck is your refusal to drop the weight. When a runner prepares for a race, they remove everything that slows them down. They don't carry unnecessary baggage. They don't run in heavy clothing. They prepare themselves to move forward without hindrance. And that's what you must do. This race of life, this path of purpose, requires a clean heart and clear eyes. You cannot run with power when your soul is tangled in the ropes of yesterday. The reset is about shedding what no longer serves you so you can walk in what has been waiting for you. But here's the truth that many ignore. Resetting is not passive. It is not something that just happens with time. Time doesn't heal wounds, truth does. And the truth is this: you were not meant to live in a cycle of regret. You were not meant to carry a heart full of resentment. You were not created to rehearse your failures like a script. You were made to rise. You were made to renew your mind. You were made to step into each day with the confidence that your past has no authority over your identity. Do you know why? Some people never move on because they're waiting for someone else to fix what only they can release. They want the apology. They want the perfect moment. But healing rarely comes with perfect conditions. Sometimes you must create your own moment of freedom. Sometimes you must say, I forgive, I release, I surrender. Not because it was fair, not because it makes sense, but because holding on is hurting me more than letting go ever could. This is the call of the reset, to stop waiting for someone to come fix your story and to take the pen back. To say with authority, I choose to be free. I choose to believe again. I choose to begin again. The reset is not about what you've lost, it's about what you're willing to reclaim. But nothing new can begin until you let go of what no longer belongs. Asterisk. There is a moment when a person stands between what was and what could be. It is a sacred moment not marked by applause or spotlight, but by stillness and trembling. It is the place between despair and decision. And for many, it feels like a quiet battlefield, where the enemy isn't someone outside. But the voice within that says, you can't start over. It's too late for you. But I came to tell you that no matter how far you've fallen, no matter how long you've been down, the invitation to restart still stands. Failure is a word we all know too well. It might wear different clothes: divorce, addiction, bankruptcy, betrayal, silence, but it speaks the same language. It whispers, you're done. And if you're not careful, you begin to believe it. You start seeing your identity through the lens of your lowest point. You stop dreaming. You stop trying. You stop expecting anything better. Not because the door is closed, but because you no longer believe it can open for you. That's the tragedy of failure, not what it takes from your life, but what it convinces you to stop reaching for. But listen to me. Your failure is not your finale. Your brokenness is not beyond repair. And your setback is not a sign that you're finished. It may be the very ground where God is preparing to rebuild something stronger. You see, the greatest transformations do not happen on the mountaintop. They begin in the valley. Not in moments of applause, but in the dark, quiet places where a soul finally whispers, I can't do this on my own anymore. That is where the restart begins. Not in strength, but in surrender. Restarting doesn't require perfection. It doesn't require all the answers. It requires a heart willing to rise again. A heart willing to say, I messed up. I lost sight. I got tired. But I'm not going to stay here. The enemy of your soul would rather you sit in self-pity than rise in faith. He'd rather you stay in that prison of shame than realize the key has been in your hands the whole time. It's easier to give up. It's easier to stay comfortable in dysfunction, but easy isn't freedom. Comfortable isn't calling. Sometimes the path to healing is paved with tears, but every step forward is holy ground. There is a cost to restarting. You will have to forgive people who never said sorry. You will have to face fears that have lived in your heart for years. You will have to silence the inner critic who reminds you of every wrong turn, every wasted year. But what is the alternative? To sit in a grave of could-have-beens? To let the years pass by while your soul withers in silence? You were not created to settle. You were created to overcome, to press on, to get back up with fire in your bones and say, this time, I'm not doing it alone. One of the lies that keeps people stuck is this: I've tried before, and it didn't work. But let me ask you, what if the last failure was never meant to be the end, but the lesson? What if the fall was meant to strip away your pride? To teach you dependence, to humble you enough to seek truth, not applause? What if that pain prepared you for a deeper, truer restart than anything you ever imagined before? God often allows the ground to break so that the seed can grow. What looks like destruction may actually be the start of your becoming. Think of a tree in winter. To the outside world it looks dead, lifeless, no fruit, no color. But underneath the surface there is still life, still roots, still the potential for growth. Your restart may look invisible at first. It may feel slow. You may not see the results in a week or a month. But if you stay faithful, if you keep showing up, if you water the ground even when nothing is blooming, you will rise. Not as who you were, but as who you were always meant to become. Restarting means choosing obedience over outcome. It means you get up and move, even if you don't know the full path yet. It means you speak truth, even if your voice shakes. It means you leave the familiar behind, even if the unknown feels terrifying. Faith is not a feeling, it's a step. It's trusting that the one who calls you out of the boat won't let you drown when the waters rise. It's believing that your worst mistake can become your most powerful testimony if you place it in the hands of grace. Some of you are waiting for a sign to start over. This is your sign. Some of you think you need to clean yourself up first. You don't. Start as you are. Start with the mess. Start with the fear. Start with the shattered pieces. The miracle is not that you rise perfect, it's that you rise at all. That you refuse to stay buried. That you choose to rebuild with what's left. The power of the restart is not found in the strength of your hands, but in the posture of your heart. You may have been knocked down by circumstances, by people, by your own decisions, but you don't have to stay down. And you don't need the world's approval to rise. You just need the resolve to try again. Not with empty ambition, but with the quiet strength of someone who's tasted loss and still chooses life. That's courage. That's what changes everything. Not the absence of pain, but the decision to live purposefully in spite of it. Restarting is not going back, it's going forward with wisdom. It's walking into the new with the lessons of the old. It's redeeming time that once felt wasted. It's rewriting the story that once felt finished. Because as long as there is breath in your lungs, there is potential in your life. And no matter how many chapters ended in heartbreak, there is still more being written. Still more to become. Still more to do. Still more to give. Still more to live for. Asterisk. There comes a time in every journey when the traveler must stop not to give up, but to realign. Because the path ahead cannot be navigated with blurred vision. You may still be walking, you may still be moving, but without clarity, without conviction, without a fixed focus, you are not progressing, you are wandering. And wandering is not freedom. It's not growth, it's not purpose. It's just motion without meaning. That is why refocusing is not optional. It is essential for the soul that longs to finish the race with strength and truth. In a world full of flashing lights, loud voices, endless notifications, and false promises, it is easy, dangerously easy, to lose sight of what truly matters. Distraction is no longer the exception, it is the norm. We live in a culture addicted to noise. And while the noise keeps us entertained, it also keeps us confused. Our minds are scattered, our priorities fractured, our spirits exhausted. We scroll through comparison, drown in criticism, chase validation, and call it life. But deep down, we know something's missing. We know that despite all this activity, our hearts are still restless. What are you looking at? Where are your eyes fixed? Because whatever has your focus has your future. If your eyes are locked on fear, your life will shrink. If your eyes are locked on shame, your life will wither. If your eyes are locked on worldly success, your soul will starve even if your hands are full. Refocus means to take your eyes off the illusion and put them back on what is eternal, what is solid, what is unshakable. Refocus means to see clearly again, to see yourself, your life, and your purpose through the lens of truth, not trend. You cannot live a powerful life with a distracted mind. You cannot walk with purpose if you're constantly turning your head to watch others. The reason so many feel weary is not because they're doing too much, but because they're doing what doesn't matter. They're pursuing applause instead of alignment. They're building platforms instead of building character. They're chasing everything and catching nothing because their focus is fractured. A divided mind leads to a divided life. And a divided life cannot stand. Refocusing begins with honesty. Brutal honesty. You have to ask yourself, what am I really chasing? Who am I really trying to impress? What have I allowed to take center stage in my heart? Is it peace or performance? Is it the voice of truth or the voice of the crowd? Because make no mistake, there will always be something vying for your attention. The enemy doesn't have to destroy you to distract you. He just needs to keep your eyes slightly off course, your priorities slightly misaligned, your heart slightly compromised, and over time, slight becomes severe. You don't wake up lost, you drift there, slowly, one unfocused day at a time. That it's time to lift your eyes. It's time to refocus, not just on good things, but on the right thing. Because when your eyes are fixed on the right thing, the wrong things begin to lose their grip. You stop striving for what doesn't satisfy. You stop comparing yourself to others. You stop defining yourself by the temporary. Focus brings freedom. It removes clutter. It reveals what truly matters. There is power in vision. Where there is no vision, the people perish not because they lack strength, but because they lack direction. Vision isn't about seeing what's in front of you, it's about seeing what's worth moving toward. It's about locking your eyes on what is unseen, what is greater, what calls you higher. Vision gives pain a purpose. It turns trials into training. It keeps you from quitting when the path grows hard. And that's why the enemy works overtime to cloud your vision, to distract you with comfort, to entangle you with sin, to blind you with lies, but you have the choice to refocus. You have the authority to take your thoughts captive, to renew your mind, to quiet the noise and turn your eyes toward truth. You have the ability to reset your gaze not by willpower alone, but by surrender. Refocusing is not just a mental adjustment. It is a spiritual act. It is you saying, I will no longer allow my focus to be dictated by my feelings. I will no longer let the world set my priorities. I will no longer give my attention to what robs me of peace, joy, or integrity. Some of you have spent years focused on the wrong things, on trying to prove your worth, to earn love, to fit in, to get even, to stay relevant. But those things will never fill the void. They will leave you tired, not transformed. You were not created to live reactive. You were created to live with resolve. And resolve comes from focus. When your eyes are locked on the one who calls you higher, everything else starts to fade into the background. The chaos loses power. The confusion loses volume. The competition loses value. Because you know who you are, and you know where you're going. To refocus means to prioritize what's eternal over what's urgent. It means you stop being led by impulse and start being led by wisdom. It means you invest your time, your energy, and your thoughts into what bears fruit, not just what feels good. Because not everything that glitters is gold, and not everything that grows is healthy. You must learn to discern. You must learn to pause. You must learn to say no to the lesser so you can say yes to the greater. You cannot do everything, but you can do what matters. You cannot please everyone, but you can live in a way that pleases the one who gave you breath. And that is what refocusing allows you to do, to live with integrity, not image. To walk in purpose, not popularity. To be guided by truth, not trends. Refocusing clears the fog and reminds you of what this life is really about, not success, not survival, but significance. Not busyness, but bearing fruit. Not noise, but stillness. Not the approval of man, but the presence of God. The battle for your life is the battle for your focus. Whatever has your focus will shape your future, so lift your eyes. Fix your gaze. Lock your vision on what is noble, pure, eternal, and unshakable. Let go of the distractions. Lay down the noise. Clear the clutter. And see again, not with your eyes, but with your heart, because when your heart sees clearly, your life follows with power, peace, and unshakable purpose. Asterisk, you were never meant to live in confusion. You were never meant to carry the weight of regret, to wander aimlessly, or to bury your purpose beneath the noise of this world. There is a higher calling on your life, one that cannot be fulfilled until you make a decision. Not tomorrow, not when you feel ready. But now, the drifting must stop. The guilt must break. The fear must bow. You've been walking with your head down long enough. It's time to look up. It's time to remember who you are, and more importantly, whose you are. You need to reset not just your schedule or your goals, but your soul. Let go of what you can't change. Lay it down at the feet of the one who already knows the end. From the beginning. Surrender your grip on what has kept you bound, and allow yourself the freedom to breathe again. You need to restart not in your own strength, but in humility. Begin again not as a victim of the past, but as a vessel of purpose. Every sunrise is proof that God hasn't given up on you. So why should you give up on yourself? You need to refocus because what you look at shapes who you become. Fix your eyes on what is eternal. Don't chase the wind. Don't be ruled by distraction. Realign your heart with what truly matters, and everything else will fall into place. This is not just another message. This is a call to rise, a call to awaken, a call to return. You're not too far gone. You're not too broken. You're not too late. The invitation stands before you today. Reset, restart, refocus, and walk boldly into the life you were always meant to live with clarity, conviction, and courage. Because the world doesn't need another distracted soul. It needs someone fully alive, and that someone is you.